Welcome back to Football's Coming Home. That's right, your new YouTube football podcast and vodcast, whichever you call it these days, and it's all dedicated to international football. We are covering Euro 2020. This tournament's been fantastic so far. We're already through almost all of the second round games, about to enter the third round games, and this tournament and various teams are starting to show their face now. I'd like to welcome my panel this evening. Good afternoon, even to Gaz.
Hi guys, how are you all doing?
Good to see you, my friend. And also joining us is Christian.
Hi guys, hope everyone's good.
Doing pretty well, actually. Thank you for asking. And if you are in the chat room this evening, you can comment on tonight's show by leaving your comments, and we will put them up on screen and we'll ask our panel. So a bit about today. We're going to talk about Group D, then we're going to get into Group B, then Group C. And we're going to give our view on the last round of games, second round of games, and also our thoughts on what we think will happen in the final round of games. Ultimately, how we think the tables are going to shake down. Let's start with Group D. Group D is Croatia, Czech Republic, England, and Scotland. Yesterday and the day before, we saw Croatia battle it out for a 1-1 draw with Czech Republic. Perisic scored on 47th minute to equalise the penalty score from the Czech Republic in the first half by Patrick Schick. I mean, that guy's on fire, isn't he, Gaz? Seems to be having a tournament of his life.
Yeah, he's really. I've not heard much of him before the tournament. I've seen him as a bit of a youth prospect. I think he played at Roma before. I'm not quite sure what club he's playing for now, but he's been one of the stars, hasn't he? The first couple of games, we're starting to see that now, aren't we? A few players emerging from each team, sort of almost lead their teams forward, and he's definitely the one for the Czechs.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. This game, we had 11 shots to 11. It was quite even, although Croatia really dominated. It was kind of a weird one. Possession-wise, very even as well. But if you were just watching the game or watching the highlights of the game, you would definitely have got a feel that Croatia deserved to win this. Croatia have had an interesting tournament so far. Defeat to England and 1 point against Czech Republic. So going into that second game, or third game even, with Scotland, both teams need to win this, don't they? Christian, Croatia, Scotland, and we'll come to the England game in a minute, but do you see that as the most fascinating tie moving into the final round of games so far?
Yeah, well, I think it is. I must say, with the new format this year, I find it's taken a little bit of the excitement out, so it's nice to have those games that might actually end up meaning something. I think, now with the third place finishes, I think it's really sort of takes away a bit of that. Big teams can potentially go out. But back to the game itself, I think it's definitely one to look forward to. Interesting to see it pans out. I actually fancy Croatia to get a result there. I think that for how poor the result was for England yesterday, I don't think Scotland are particularly strong, and I don't think they're going to cause many problems to Croatia. I think that they haven't got enough going forward, and I fancy Croatia to get a result there, to be honest.
And do you think Croatia would be disappointed by their tournament so far, Gaz?
I think so. I think we talked about them, I think, back in the first episode, didn't we? Just after England had beaten them, and we spoke of them as being sort of on the decline a bit, on the wane. I think they come into this tournament probably looking for a last hurrah to sort of prove that they're still, the old masters, they're still there. So I think they've been disappointed probably so far. But I think, to be honest, they'll be looking at that game against Scotland thinking, here's our chance to get out of jail, really. We've not had a great couple of games, but playing a Scotland side who I don't think are as good as some of the coverage last night post-game was perhaps suggesting. I think they were overdoing a bit there. I mean, they haven't scored a goal and they've got 1 point. I think Croatia will be looking at that, and quite frankly, they'll be licking their lips.
Yeah, I agree, actually. I think Croatia started to show in this game that they have the ability to push on in this tournament. And let's come to the England-Scotland game. England were clearly disappointing last night. Been lots said about that. You can debate the starting lineup all you want, but this was Scotland's World Cup final. Let's not deny that. Don't be naive to the fact Scotland absolutely had to take something out of the game last night. Wanted to win. They didn't win. They haven't scored a goal in this tournament. For me, I'm less worried about England than a lot of what I've seen online in terms of reaction, because I think England can pull this back and move forward. There's obviously problems with the lineup, but Scotland have to go into this game with Croatia and get a win, basically. Can they do that, Cristiaan?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, I do think that, do you know what, can be completely honest, Eshu, my mind was wondering about the England game, and I've missed the last part of your question. So instead of trying to freestyle my way through an answer, if you don't mind just repeating
of course
that,
I will. So Scotland have to take the victory against Croatia. What do they have to do to be able to progress?
Yeah, I think that the key is obviously they need to get a result there. I don't think they will. I can't see them getting a result there. I mean, I may turn around and be massively shocked, but I think Croatia have got too much about them. If they turn up, Croatia won't want to be going home yet. You know, I know we've said about their last hurrah, and you know they've always been looking back to a few years ago when they knocked England out. They might not be of that level, but they're certainly of the level where they should be making it out of this group, in my opinion. And I think that they will. That they'll get a comfortable result. But saying that, I said to you yesterday that I thought England were far too superior for Scotland. So what do I know? But yeah, I fancy Croatia to go through. I can't see Scotland getting a result.
Yeah, same here.
I was going to come to you guys, actually. In terms of Scotland, I mean, lots been said about them not being able to score goals. You know, as good as they were yesterday, they were very, very good. They really, really struggled to put that ball in the back of the net. And it was decent defending from England that prevented it. But that's what you do in tournaments. And England is currently sitting in second place. We'll come to the table in a minute with 4 points. Scotland have 1 point. Croatia have 1 point. Both teams need to win that game. And if you were looking purely on stats, you would say Croatia are the outstanding favourite to win.
Absolutely, 100%, and they will. I believe that they will beat Scotland. I think it'll be a similar game to the game that Scotland played against the Czechs. You know, give good show of themselves, bit of heart, bit of commitment, like you always get from Scotland. But ultimately, they'll fall short because I think technically they're not good enough. I mean, Che Adams, he had a couple of chances last night. That early one that people have forgotten about, the cutback, he should have scored that. And the volley in the second half, he should have scored that as well. And yeah, if you rely on the likes of him to get your goals, then you're not really going to go far. So I think Croatia will turn up whenever it's Tuesday, isn't it, when the game is, and they'll put them to the sword. It'll be perhaps 2-3-0, routine victory, and the Scots will be heading back north.
Well,
yeah. One thing I would say about the Scotland squad, that they're definitely up for it. They're definitely. You mentioned about it being the cup final, but I think they definitely have the underdog mentality. I think that I fancy Croatia. The more I sort of play it through in my head, they've got players in there that will go to battle for you, haven't they? There's one thing you can say. You know, you like your Tierneys, your Robertsons, McGinn. They've got players that will go to battle for you. Maybe we're just underestimating them. Maybe they will, but it's hard. Like Gaz said, Croatia have got quality in their side. Maybe they haven't turned it on yet, but they have. They have got quality there. So, be a really intriguing game, that's for sure.
I think it will. And both teams have to take something more than just a point, because looking at the way in which this tournament's being run, you need effectively 3 points to guarantee qualification, even at third place. So if Scotland and Croatia were to battle it out for a draw, they'll both be on 2 points. The chances of both teams or one of the teams qualifying is remote. So they both have to go for it. It makes for a really mouth-watering proposition. We have had a question come in. I'd just like to say hi to everyone in the chat room. Hi to Clayton, hi to Ryan, hi to Elliot, hi to Max, and hi to a few others that are in there as well. Do you feel that the England fans' reaction to Scotland result was an overreaction or justified? Coming to you, Cristiaan.
Okay, so as an England fan, I think it's justified. I know, again, we've touched on what you said earlier, privately to us about it being almost like a cup final for Scotland. It should be a cup final for England as well. It's as much a big game for Scotland as it is England. That rivalry is not just on Scotland's side. That rivalry goes back a long time between the two nations. And I think that England really, really, really let themselves down yesterday. I can see, sort of looking at the system and what Southgate was trying to do. I think by bringing James and Shaw into the side, he was really looking for the overlapping fullbacks. and that's probably why he's gone with the two sitting midfielders again. But it just didn't work. Kane looks like he's carrying a knock to me. Looks like he's struggling. And what disappointed me more than anything is the reluctance to change. It wasn't working. It clearly wasn't working. You could tell that from early on. And it took a long time before Southgate made the change. And I didn't agree with the change. So I think, just because I didn't agree with it doesn't necessarily make it wrong. But I really think it was wrong. I thought the substitutions were really, really poor. And I think that with the attacking talent we've got in that squad, maybe it doesn't seem to be the trust in it. There's no trust in it from Southgate to give other players the opportunity. Hungry. I know you're a big Calvert-Lewin fan, Stu. Rashford through the middle made no sense to me at all in that situation. Calvert-Lewin would have been the ideal replacement for Kane in that situation. And for whatever reason, Southgate didn't fancy it, and it was just really disappointing. We didn't trouble them at all. And I think that, fans have got a right to be disappointed. This is not a strong group, and we haven't really. Yes, we got a great result against Croatia, but we haven't looked particularly great yet, barring the first 20 minutes for me against Croatia. And yes, I'd rather go into a tournament. Don't get me wrong. I'd rather go into it than start early and fade away. But I'm expecting more from this side. This side's been built up a lot, and at the moment it's not delivering. So a lot of questions need to be asked of the manager. And then that follows on to the players if things don't go how we're hoping for. And by the way, just to say, not that I'm expecting us to win the tournament, but I expect more than we're showing at the moment. This is a great generation for England, England players. So.
And yet, the realities with tournament football is you can effectively draw every single game, including in the sort of head-to-heads when you get past the group stages and win on penalties and win the tournament. We saw that we effectively saw that from Greece some years ago, and to a lesser extent, Portugal not so long ago. Gaz,
of course.
Same question to you. Is it an overreaction, or is it just part and parcel of tournament football?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll probably be a politician on this one. I'll say yes, it is, and no, it isn't. I'll say yes, it is an overreaction. No, it isn't an overreaction in terms of, yes, we should have beaten Scotland because we're a better side than them no matter what. But if we look at the bigger picture, we basically secured qualification last night. So, in the bigger picture of a tournament, a long slog of a tournament, we're going through as a result of securing that point last night. To echo what Chris said, I think I don't think the performance last night was much different to the Croatia performance. I think the difference is we're up against someone who absolutely did not want to lose to us. Yep. Croatia, it was that derby kind of feel, that derby mentality that Scotland had. We've talked about it being their World Cup final. We've talked about it being a kind of, if you lose to us, you get relegated type of thing. And that was the feel. And they brought that to the table, and they played with incredible passion, incredible determination. And it was a bit of a brick wall in terms of trying to get through. We couldn't scrape through it because they weren't giving us an inch. So I think it's not an overreaction because we should have beat them last night. But in the bigger picture, we qualified last night.
Yeah, but just to throw it back to that, though, we're not creating chances. We don't seem to be creating chances, and that's a concern for me against the opposition we're playing against. We've got great attacking players, and there's no cohesion between that squad at the moment. There really isn't, and that's not just gonna. I don't get the feeling that it's just gonna click. Sometimes when you're watching tournament football, you're watching a team, you think they're starting to rumble here. It's gonna click and they'll kick in. I don't get that feeling with this side at the moment that it's about to gel. And that concerns me because there are teams that look like teams at the moment. We do not look like a team right now. Whereas when you go back to Greece, they look like a team. I know they absolutely, credit to them for winning it. They fluked a tournament, but they were a team. They were extremely well organised. They were really difficult to break down. We don't look like we're really well organised. We don't look like we're really difficult to break down. We don't look like we're going to create chances. So that's the concern for me. But it could change. It could drop, and maybe he'll change it in the next game. Go with a different lineup. Change a few things around because I think he needs to, and something might click for them. But it's a concern for me at the moment because we, as always, we get carried away before a tournament. But actually, this time around, we really have got a great group of players in the attacking wise, and it just doesn't seem to be gelling. So,
yeah.
The lineups have been interesting as well. We've had a few comments come in about lineups. I'll start with this one from Sam. It says Southgate out. It's trending, I think, on Twitter. Thanks for that, Sam. I think Calvert-Lewin needs to start again against Czech Republic. He offers more in terms of physicality and brings others into play. I totally agree with you there, Ryan.
Yeah.
Fantastic player. Unproven as well in this tournament so far. He's hardly got a sniff. And the same with Sancho and, of course, Saka. I'd like to see those three in a game together. I thought when we've seen some of the friendlies, I thought they were the most dynamic playing together. But then I think the structure of the team needs to change. I don't think you need two holding midfielders against Czech Republic. I don't think they've got enough going through the middle. So I'll be really, really interested to see what Southgate does there, because effectively we're through and we've got a chance to tinker. There's also a comment here about Kane. It says Kane was coming too deep as well. As a result, there was no one up front with any physical presence to worry the Scottish defence. Yeah. And Elliot says, Kane for me isn't justifying starting either. For me, he's done nothing in this tournament so far. I mean, there's also an argument to say how when we reflect on the World Cup a couple of years ago, if you take away his penalties, he didn't score that many from open play. There were a majority of them were penalties.
Yeah. So when you look at Kane, I get the feeling, I might be wrong here, but it seems like he's gone into this major tournament and the last one with an injury. I think he was injured before the last tournament, if memory serves me. I might be wrong.
Yeah,
there.
I feel
I feel like he has been, and I don't think he's fit. You know, we've admitted this before. We're all Arsenal fans here, but I respect Harry Kane as a footballer. He's a top player. But he doesn't look fit to me. And to touch on what the comment about Kane dropping deep, the way he plays, it's him as a footballer. He's never been an off-the-shoulder number 9. He's always been a player that looks to drop in and create. But at Spurs, we said this last time out, didn't we? At Spurs, he's got two dynamic wingers, if you will. Whereas at England, when he drops in, those inverted forwards, so you're Sterling and this time Foden didn't. They're not the type that get into the box to make use of the space. So that's where I think where it's lacking. But for me, we all believe that Calvert-Lewin should be given the opportunity. I think that Kane is struggling. We are essentially through now. Give the lad a chance up top against the Czech Republic and see if he takes it with both hands. I feel he will. Problem is, I think that Southgate will then go back to Kane, in the next game.
Well, when you look at the table, let's have a quick peek at the table. Czech Republic are currently top, only on goal difference. They play Scotland next, as we've said. And no, they don't. They play England next, and Croatia plays Scotland. Croatia have to beat Scotland the same way Scotland have to beat Croatia. I think if they get a point there, both of them are struggling.
Yeah.
Czech Republic and England. I mean, that's an interesting one. Just a quick view on the two results. Gaz, Scotland taking on Croatia.
I think Croatia will beat them. We talked about it. I think Croatia will turn them over. Routine victory. Sorry, Scotland.
Well, we've got to pick one, and we're not being anti-Scottish here. I'd love to see Scotland qualify, by the way, but I just feel like going up front, they've got very little to really offer. I do like Shea Adams, but he's not prolific enough. What about England taking on Czech Republic? Now, let me set the scene here. If England beat Czech Republic, we're going to face either France, Portugal, or Germany in the next round. If England comes second, we avoid them entirely. What do you think will happen, and what do you want to happen?
Do you want to take that, Chris? Start with.
For me, play to win. You play to win regardless. You have to play to win. But saying that, I think you play to win with a different side, as I've said earlier on. I would like to see Chilwell in the side. I'd like to see Bellingham in the side. I would like to see... again, I don't have a massive desire to see Saka in that 11. As an Arsenal fan, yes, I'd love him to get minutes, but I accept where he is at the moment in the pecking order. And there's other players I'd probably like to see before him. I'd like to see Sancho get minutes. Not because I'm massively familiar with him, because I don't watch a lot of German football. I wouldn't pretend to, but his stats are great. He plays for a top side in Germany in the Champions League.
On Sancho, Chris.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention on today's show about Sancho was that I saw a quote from Christoph Kramer, who's the German World Cup winner.
Mm-hmm.
He said on German TV, he can't think of any other reasons but disciplinary ones not to play Sancho. And the rest of this tweet said, that's how absurd this is for people who watch the Bundesliga. No wonder he wants to move back to the UK because he's literally invisible when he plays abroad.
So that's a really good one. I might be controversial here, but I wonder if the fact that he's playing abroad in Germany and not part of the Premier League brand, if that has anything to do with it. Now, I might be absolutely miles off here, but Southgate seems very loyal to his group of players. I wonder if there's something in that because, everyone goes mad for him in Germany. And again, I can't pretend to have seen much of him. We have limited access now to Champions League football and German football these days, but I know he's doing very well out there. His stats show that.
For me, the big thing is there's no reason for the Germans to hype him up. He's an English player, he's a winger, young man. There's no need for him to sort of be a mate, so there's got to be something there. And I think Sam is right to say, he's not had a sniff, has he? I mean, he could have been an option yesterday.
I mean, I think to contradict that, though, I'm thinking, well, Bellingham's getting minutes, isn't he? He got minutes. I know not yet, but in the friendly beforehand, I think Bellingham will start the next game personally. I do. I think he'll get minutes.
I agree, and I just want to put in there. I think sometimes experience wins in these types of tournaments, certainly this stage, and the likes of Sterling and. Well, it depends on which way you come from, because if we're already a young squad, we're the second youngest squad, and. Yeah. You have to balance that, and I think there's an argument there to say a Sterling and a Kane helps balance that side. I'm not sure that they deserve to be starting. Sterling does. Sterling did okay yesterday. He certainly did all right against Croatia. But I don't see any reason other than being a captain and bringing experience for Kane to start when you've got other players that can offer different things on that side. Yes, I am a fan of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but he offers different things to Harry Kane. I think Harry Kane wins on experience only, in my opinion, and the ability to score directly inside the box as a fox in the box type player. I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin is still inexperienced, overall, but I don't see how he can't add more in terms of bringing those players around him more into the game, and that's what he does for Everton. So I'd like to see more of that. We're going to have to move on, but that's Group B. Should we Group D? Should we focus on Group B? I think we should. Group B, Finland took on Russia, and Russia won 1-0. Denmark took on Belgium, and Belgium won 2-1. They were the two games in Group B, and this is how Group B is currently shaking down. Belgium are leading the group with 6 points. I mean, they're qualified already. And Russia, Finland on 3 points. Poor old Denmark. I mean, they've been through it. Through it such a tough way in this tournament, losing Christian Eriksen and everything that sort of happened in that first game. Let's focus on the Finland-Russia game first. Finland actually scored in this game. It got chalked off for offside, and it was marginal, but it probably was the right decision. And then Russia took over. They scored in injury time of the first half, dominated the second half. Overall, they had 14 shots at the Finland goal. Russia did all right in the World Cup. Are they now off and running, Gaz?
I think they are. I think I was doing a bit of research before the game, before the show, in fact, in terms of looking at what the table looks like. I think they're going to go through. I think they are. I think looking good now. Miranchuk, he was brilliant yesterday, by the way. Obviously, he scored the winner, but he's probably man of the match as well. Yeah, I think Finland can rue the offside goal, but it was offside, so it doesn't really kind of make a difference to anything. I think that's probably going to be the end of the Finns in this tournament. I don't know if they'll get one of the third place spots. I can't remember if they won the first game, didn't they? They might do, but I think Russia definitely up and running.
Yeah. So on that basis then, do you feel that Denmark, even though they've had 2 defeats, will come back and win their third game?
I think they will, yeah. I think what I would say about the previous game is incredibly emotional scenes, wasn't it, for that game? And I think it'd be really disappointing if they bow out having lost all 3 games. So I think that they'll come back, they'll win, they'll overhaul, get that 3rd place. That's perhaps the romantic in me really that wants them to go through, but I think they will come back.
So that could be really interesting then, because you could, in effect, let's assume that Finland get beaten by Belgium, because I think Belgium are going to take this group by some distance. Best team in the world now on paper, Belgium 9 points, which means then Russia, Finland, and Denmark will all have 3 points each. Yeah. And then it comes down to goal difference. So that will be very, very interesting. I love this.
What point do we toss a coin?
Well, yeah, exactly. Someone asked me the other day, what happens in this situation? It really comes down to goal difference. And then there's a load of other metrics if they've got the same goal difference, etc.
It's about the head-to-head result or the score, but then if it's messy, isn't it?
I think the yellow cards and disciplinary comes into it at some point as well. But.
Yeah, Denmark, though, were one of the favourites to get out of this group. Yeah. And it's been such a shame for them. I mean, I think it's fair to say the Eriksson ordeal has completely thrown them off track. He's such an important player for them. But, in this game, Denmark actually dominated the first half. And Belgium were all out at sea in terms of how they were playing. And then, of course, De Bruyne all of a sudden comes alive, creates the equaliser. And, that left foot out of the box. I mean, how does he score goals like that? This guy is a superstar. Belgium, Cristiaan, can they go on and win this tournament?
100%. Yeah, 100%. They're not my favourites, but absolutely they can win it. Absolutely. They've got a phenomenal side, and Lukaku is banging form at the moment. He looks like a monster right now. Like he's so physically imposing. All of those weaknesses that he United fans will tell you he had at United seem to have disappeared. He looks like one of the top strikers in world football at the moment. I know Ryan and Sammy, if they're still watching, are big fans of him as well. So I think that with him in the side, De Bruyne, who is again one of the best players in world football right now, they've got a really good side from top to bottom. They've got a great team. I would expect them to be in and around the final for sure. Just depends on can they all stay fit? Can they avoid any sort of pitfalls? I think they can, but it'd be interesting to see where it ends up when you get to that semi-final stage. But I think they'll be amongst it for sure. I think they're
Group B is one of the lucky groups where the winner gets to play a 3rd place team as well. So they should have a marginally easier last 16 tie.
Looking back at the last World Cup, Gaz, Eden Hazard was the player that the Belgians went to, and De Bruyne and Hazard kept that team going. Now it's actually Eden's brother, Torgan, who seems to be such an important role in that side. And, I made Cristiaan right in his point around Lukaku. At Man United, he looked forever unfit. And he just could not play the way that Man United wanted to play with him in that side. He looks a totally different animal at Inter Milan. He looks phenomenal in front of goal. He's doing it again in this tournament.
He links play as well, doesn't he?
He does link play, yeah, absolutely. He's come back to the Harry Kane argument. He's actually what England need in there. If you were looking for a player to bring other players in, he's the sort of player that can do it, and I think he does it better. Gaz, how far do you think Belgium can go in this tournament?
I think he can go all the way. I think after 2 games mostly been played by the teams, we're starting to see a bit of separation. I know France drew today, but I still have them in the top tier group, and I'd have them alongside Italy and Belgium. And they're the ones who've really impressed me at the moment, and they're the 3 teams that I think can go all the way. I think it's an interesting point about Hazard. What fall from grace. He was the best footballer in Belgium. Now he's not even the best footballer in his family. So, I think,
one of the best players in the world.
So, it's great to see, and it's nice to see it actually. And I think it's nice because they've not been a historic power, have they? I know you can go back to the days of Enzo, Schifo, and all these, but they've never been a big side. So it's nice to see a new team at the top table, if you like, and phenomenal talent all across the pitch.
Yeah, it really is. There's a couple of comments. Going back to our conversation about Tierney. Tierney is not the best left back in Europe. Sounds like a priest. Tricky one with Sancho. He is not an explosive player like Sterling, more of a passing build-up midfielder attacker. Only player he could replace is Foden. That's a really interesting take.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing that, Hiran. Very, very interesting. You could be onto something there. And Sam just put, Lukaku has learnt how to use his frame. Henry coaching has helped a lot. Same with Conte. Absolutely make that right. I think that's really, really great insight. He really has. And he's doing it in bits, not just for club, but for country. Let's have another look at that table, because I think this has the ability to be a really interesting one with these bottom three teams, Russia, Finland, and Denmark. So it could end up on 3 points each. We've talked about Belgium, but can any of the other three go on a run in this tournament? Gaz?
No, not for me. I think they're also Rans. They look at it. I think I think everybody wants Denmark to get through, and I want to get through as well. But I think that'll just be it's not 1992 anymore. I think that they will potentially get through to the second round if our prayers are answered. But I think that'll be the end of the road for them.
And same question to you.
Yeah, I jumped in early, but absolutely not. No, I don't see any of the teams causing any problems there. I don't think there's any solid sides. I don't see Greece in there, if that's the question. No.
Fair enough. Well, there you go. So we're going to finish off tonight's show with talking about Group C after this. So Group C includes Ukraine, North Macedonia, the Netherlands, and Austria, with the majority of games being played at the Netherlands. Let's start with Ukraine and North Macedonia. Ukraine, same scorers as the last game, Yarmolenko and Yaremchuk. They took the lead. In fact, they went 2-0 up. Yarmolenko scored on the 29th minute, with Yaremchuk scoring almost immediately after on the 34th minute. Ukraine shaded possession 52% to 46%, 17 attempts on goal at North Macedonia, with North Macedonia returning 13. So it was a really, really fun match, this one. North Macedonia look all but out now. I've got a bit of a soft spot because I love seeing Pandev up front. It's great seeing an old timer in a major tournament like this. And I have to say, I love Alioski as well. I love the way he plays. Fair to say, Gaz, it's done for North Macedonia, do you think?
Yeah, it's done for them. They're obviously one of those teams who are just sort of happy to be there. Yeah, the old patronising college, they've had a great day out for the fans, It's one of those. But to be fair to them, I mean, talk about Ukraine, you mentioned some of the stats there. And, on the basis of those stats, it sounds as though they dominated the game. But actually, as is often the case, that wasn't really the thing. They gave Ukraine a real scare here, actually. And I think... Ukraine have scraped by this really to sort of get this win. And actually, a broader point about the group, I think Austria have got a plan here. And we talked about this in the previous pod. They saw the first game against North Macedonia. Let's win this game, get our 3 points on the board. Free hit against Holland. If we get a point, great. If we lose, we lose. And then they're going into this game against Ukraine, the final group game, with a real chance of going through. And I think they'll turn them over. I think Austria are a good side who we haven't seen the best of, A lot of players from the Bundesliga, very pressing kind of team. I think we're going to see a bit more of that. Arnautovic is going to be back. I think they'll beat Ukraine and they'll take that second spot.
That's interesting because Ukraine appear to know where the goal is, Cristiaan. Yarmolenko, Yaremchuk, I mean, they're two players that everyone should have had in their fantasy league. Both got goals already. Both players that you probably wouldn't have put in your fantasy league. Do you see Ukraine going far in this tournament, or do you think that they're going to come unstuck in the next round?
Yeah, again, I don't see it. The thing I think with this tournament is it doesn't look like an outsider to me. You may argue like a side like Holland, who you wouldn't. Is it disrespectful to call them an outsider? But I think it's clear on who the favourites are at the moment. We've said the three. I would probably add Portugal to that, depending on the result today. But, I think it would possibly be that four. Outside of that, I can't see many surprises. You'd say a Netherlands and England, unless I'm forgetting, or Germany, would be silly to write them off. But outside of that, I don't see any upsets at all. I really don't. I think now more than ever, there's a big gap between the top, the next level, and then the rest. And yeah, I don't see it. No, don't see anyone causing any upsets.
And then the second game,
saying that after watching the France-Hungary game, it's difficult, isn't it? But no,
also Scotland, England.
Of course. But no, I think as the tournament goes on, I think the cream will rise, and I don't see there being any upsets in terms of outsider winners.
So I think the Netherlands have played this really well. 2 wins out of 2. They were looking dodgy against Ukraine, but they came back and they won that game.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, to go 2-0 up in that game and then concede 2 to draw, and then to get the winner is shows you've got something about you. I'm still worried about the Netherlands up front. I've watched enough now of Depay and Weghorst as the front two, and whilst I like both as individual players, I'm not sure they work that well together. But others will have different opinions. 2-0 victory over Austria. Depay scored a penalty on 11 minutes. Dumfries scored on the 67th minute. Gaz, how do you think Holland are doing in this tournament so far? Will they be happy? I mean, they look pretty functional to me. Yeah. They're pretty good going forward. They're reasonably open at the back. They lost their 2 best defenders before the tournament started. Yeah. Will that be a factor as they head into the head-to-head rounds?
I think they've been impressive so far. I mean, they've sort of shown both sides of it, haven't they? They've shown their ability to take the game by the scruff of the neck, going 2-0 up in the previous game against Ukraine. They've shown their weaknesses to let that slip. They've then shown their mentality, the ability to come back and then still win the game. It's brilliant. Yesterday, I think that, or the day before, they've shown the ability to secure a routine victory, which I think is what it was. I think they were helped by an Austrian team who, as I said already, I think they saw it as a free hit. If they get anything out of it, great. But they've already got 3 points in the back pocket from North Macedonia. So I'm interested to see what I don't think Dumfries is going to score every game. Let's put it that way. So as you say, they've got to find something more up front. And obviously Depay's got a goal from the spot. I think it's another Spain, isn't it? They're a good side, but I think that they lack that real cutting edge up front. And if the goals do dry up from midfield, then they could be in trouble. But so far, they're good. But again, as Chris mentioned earlier, I don't have them in that group of 3 yet.
Yeah. Let's look at the table very quickly. Netherlands, 6 points. They're going to go through. And if they beat North Macedonia, which they certainly will be favourites to do, they'll finish on 9 points. Then it comes down to Ukraine and Austria and how that game goes as to who directly qualifies. And to be fair, with 3 points, there's a very good chance that both these teams will find their way into the round of 16. Netherlands, we've talked about. Mentioned Austria, Gaz. Do you see Austria as being a team that could have be a bit of a wild card in this tournament and go on a reasonable run?
I think they could, if they do get through to the next round, which I think they will. I think they can get through that last 16 tie, because I think they've got, obviously Alba's a good player, didn't play well yesterday, but they've got Sabitzer, who's a favourite of Stu. And Arnautovic is a bit of a wild card. You know, he's just kind of a poor man's Ibrahimovic, isn't he? You know, this big guy up front, he's got a bit of technique. But the Aldi version, I think. So yeah, I think they're a decent side. We played them in the pre-season friendly, pre-tournament friendly. I think they're a decent side. I think they're better than the lesser teams in the tournament. So they're not quite in that bottom tier. Don't see them winning it, but I do think they could get through the next round if they do qualify, which I think they will. Because as I say, I think they've looked at their fixtures there and they've thought, let's get the win against North Macedonia, see how we do against Holland, and then hell for leather in the final group game to sort of secure the qualification. So yeah, it'd be an interesting one to watch, actually, Austria. Let's see how they do.
And to wrap today's show off, I'm going to ask the panel, and we're going to do this every time, which one team they're most impressed with, because this is going to evolve as the tournament progresses. Let's start with Cristiaan. So far, who has impressed you the most and why?
I have to say Italy at the moment. So it's also between Italy and Belgium. I'd have to say Italy, because they look like they can score from anywhere. They've got goal scorers at the moment all across the pitch, which is really nice to see. They look like a team. They press with intensity. They've got great individual players. They've got good players that I would have expected coming into it, like Chiesa, to be actually in the 11, not making the 11. So they've got options off the bench to change it up, and different players as well, not like for like players. They can change the system if they need to. So I would say Italy so far have been the most impressive, but Belgium also. Yeah, I mean, I find it hard to separate the two, but if I had to lean across, I'd say Italy.
Yeah.
Same question to you, Gaz.
Yeah, same question, same answer. I think Italy are brilliant. It's really nice for me because I didn't have them down. They weren't on my radar before the tournament.
No.
And to see the way they've come in, they didn't qualify for the last World Cup, don't forget. So they're one of these countries who've had sort of a 4-year period of self-reflection, haven't they? Like trying to get their house in order, like we did back in the mid-90s. And I think they've came flying out the blocks. I mean, what is it? 29 games unbeaten now. It's about 7 or so games without conceding, and you look at them and it's so dangerous. Locatelli, I mean, he's evolving into one of the stars of the tournament. I think it's brilliant. And in fact, what I would say as well is that given that France have just drawn with Hungary, that's a real black mark against them for me, because I think we looked at that Germany-France game the other day and we looked at France and we gave them a lot of plaudits because I think we saw them, we saw like a different side of them, grinding out a bit of result, sitting deep, playing on the counter. It was a different dimension for that team. But to follow that up by what is really a bad result today, I mean, that just, for me, cements Italy as for me right now. If we're doing the old power rankings, as they call them in the American sports, Italy are number one in the power rankings right now in this tournament.
And I'd agree with you.
Yeah, probably followed by Belgium and then Holland and then France.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think Italy are the most complete team. And as you guys have said, they can score from anywhere. They look like they know how to play together. They know where where the various players are going to be positioned and how to find them as well. Very exciting from Italy. I wasn't expecting to enjoy the Italian games as much as I am enjoying. They may come unstuck in the next round, but on the other hand, they've been fun to watch, and that's what this tournament's all about.
Absolutely.
Go and watch a team that plays very defensive. I was going to say, go on, Christian.
I was going to say, you mentioned there about the foot. Yeah, forget they didn't make it last time around. So it's 5 years, isn't it? It would be 5. It would be 5 years. Obviously now that's incredible. And forget the experience they have at the back. With the two centre halves. Yeah, be a good bet. I think Italy before the tournament. If anyone had gone on.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see how it progresses. We've got some more games coming up. Stay tuned on Football's Coming Home. If you like what you're seeing and you're watching this on Catch Up, click the like button, give us a comment. And if you want to, click the subscribe button. But most importantly, click the bell button, because that means we tell you when we go live. Let's say a big thank you to my panel. Christian, good to see you, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you, Gaz.
And you too. Fantastic tournament so far, and we'll catch up soon.
We will do. Stay tuned. More from us later. Bye for now.